This episode is powered by Total Roofing and Construction. TRC is family owned, community driven, and real straight shooters. If your roof needs help, Total Roofing and Construction has you covered, literally. Hit them up at totalroofingandconstruction.com and support a business that supports veterans. Welcome to the JMach Experience. Today I'd like to introduce Dan Sachkowsky.
What's up, man?
Welcome to the show, dude.
Appreciate the invite.
I appreciate you coming on. Let's just dive right into it. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, now that you lied to me, how are you really doing today?
I'm good. Except for this irritation in my eye. Outside of that, life is really good.
When you have a little irritation, big or small, what do you use to help keep that out of mind and stay on target, stay focused what you got to do for the day?
Well, I think at the end of the day, let's just backtrack here to me flying out to Arizona. So Monday evening, I get on a flight. I get to the airport around 7 o'clock. I'm supposed to take off 8:45. We take off 10:40. Sit on the runway. We don't take off 10:40. I'm on a plane. We're supposed to leave at 10:40. We sit on the runway for another hour and 20 minutes. Checking in my rental car. I'm going to have a problem. Rental car is going to be closed by the time I get there.
Yeah.
Says we're going to arrive at 1. By the time we arrive, it's 2:45. By the time that AirTran takes you over and you stop at 15 stops before you get there, it's now 3:30. I'm like, all right, rental car is shot. Where am I going? I've got a couple of podcasts to hit up in the morning. What am I going to do? So I just kind of sat down in a chair. There was nobody else there. And I said, you know what? Take this time to rest. Whereas most people would have panicked, got stressed about it, freaked out about it. There's nothing we can do. I learned early on in life, like, we can only control what we can control. And through tons of personal development, tons of reading, and a lot of stuff that I've participated in, we spend so much time worrying about things that are never going to happen. Our shower conversations, our car conversations, really like coming up with the scripts of how we're going to do things, and that stuff never works out. So probably for the last 15 years, I live in a moment. It is what it is. So I told a few people, hey, listen, I'm stuck here. They're like, oh my God, they're panicking and I'm not, right? Because that's just a natural way to react. At the end of the day, we use our time. I was like, I need to rest. My plane, I slept a little bit, but I didn't sleep much. Let me take the next couple hours to rest, do what I got to do. And a natural person would be like, all right, well, I just can't wait to get to the hotel so I could sleep before I go on the podcast. As soon as I got to the hotel, I grabbed a coffee and I went to the gym because I needed to recharge myself. Because if I would have jumped in bed, by the time I got to that podcast, I'd have been worn out because everything would have been messed up. So I think our natural reaction to things is really to understand that whatever we think is going to happen is not going to happen. So with my eye, it's been bugging out since I got here. I just called someone up. I called my friend, one of my coaching clients. I said, hey, here's what's going on. Can you call in a script for me? She calls in a script for me. I pick it up, put the cream on. It's good. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not worrying about it. It is what it is.
What do you use to help ground yourself when you catch yourself in that spiral, though, like where everything's going wrong and you're allowing yourself to feel it and start that panic, but then you catch yourself? What do you have to do to pull yourself out of it?
So it's like you got to pause for a second. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to meditate, do all this, but you just got to pause. Like, take a second and just say, if I freak out about this or I worry about this or I spend time on this over the course of the next 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, I'm going to lose all the things I need to focus on. And I just think at the end of the day, you just got to sometimes pause. So sometimes if I'm home or if I'm away, I'll just sit in a chair for 5 minutes and just think, close my eyes, reset, come back, whatever it is. You just got to bring yourself back for a minute because all of that anxiety, all that stuff working yourself up, it's like when you get into an argument with somebody. The whole goal is they want to piss you off. And once they've pissed you off, they've done their job. But if you don't let it bother you, it's actually going to hurt them more and bother them more, and they're the ones that become irritated. That's the way it's supposed to happen. So it's like when people stub their toe when they first wake up in the morning. How many times have you done it? We've all done it. So talk about it all day. Your entire day is going to be about your toe, bad situations and things that happen. It's over. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. The person next to you doesn't care. The person you're telling doesn't care. Nobody cares. but you want people to care or feel bad about you or give you sympathy about something that's irrelevant. And this is just kind of the way that we're brought up in this world.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to understanding how that mindset develops. So let's just jump right into it. What was your childhood like?
Not great, right? So I actually talk a lot about it in my book that's coming out in November. So I dealt with a lot of childhood things that most children want, which is, confirmation from their dad that they're doing a good job, validation, and, from the age of 7 till about 13. So I'm Polish and Russian on my dad's side and Portuguese on my mom's side. So the word for fat in Portuguese is gordo. So my dad used to introduce me to people from the age of 7 to 13 as Danny Gordo. So basically, here's Fat Dan. So maybe when I was young, 7, 8 years old, I laughed, thought I went with the joke. But then I started saying, like, this is who I am. This is what I am. And then I would start looking at myself and be like, that's me. So we get labels put on us as kids, and then we have a choice. Do we live through that label? This is why there's so much trauma later on in life, because people don't deal with it early on. And I didn't deal with it. But what I did do was I shut my dad out, and I tried to go to all the other things in life that would give me validation until later on, 20, 30 years later, I realized none of those things would help me until I let go of what was bothering me. So my childhood was not great. And then at the age of 16, I started getting into the gym, competitively bodybuilding at 17. Started my first business at 17, and I started chasing the things to give me this thoughts that would have maybe fulfilled me, I thought, as a kid. I started chasing the things. And for the next 20 some odd years, I self-sabotaged myself.
So your childhood, you felt like you were picked on by your dad and you didn't have a good relationship with him?
I wouldn't say I was picked on, I just didn't meet his standard.
Okay.
So my dad was tall, skinny. My brother's tall, skinny. I'm short, fat. I carry my dad's name. So it's like I didn't come up to his standard. He if I did something or said something wrong, it was like, all right, well, you're going to get the belt or you're going to get the paddle or whatever it was, because I wasn't showing up the way he wanted me to show up.
Yeah, like you never were good enough. And
right.
I can relate to that. So what happened in high school? That's when you started your first business?
No, I was done with high school at 17.
Okay. So you graduated early?
Yeah, so I went to Catholic school for the first, 6 years of my life. Catholic school will take you as soon as you're ready to cut a check, so they took us on early. So I started my senior year, I was 16. Okay. By the time November came, I was 17. But yeah, so I was playing football in high school, started bodybuilding. I wanted to, be a football player in college. I just didn't have the academics. And after football season, I just decided that I'm better off owning my own business. But my junior year, I started working in construction. I went on a vocational program and a co-op where you'd go to school for a couple hours, then go to work.
Yeah, I went through something like that as well.
And I really started liking what I did. And what I actually did was I met my first mentor in that process. So at the age of 15, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I met my rich dad when I was 16, which was my first boss. And he inspired me to be more than I ever thought I could because of the labels my dad put on me. So about 7, 8 months working for him, we're building a house, and we're sitting there at lunchtime. And I said, when I grow up, I want to be like you, Dave. And he said, when you grow up, you need to be like you. And I said, I just want to have what you have. I want to do what you're doing. I want to live this life of possibilities. And he said to me, well, I believe you can and I believe you will. Up until that point in my life, at 17 years old, no one's ever told me they believed in me. So it's like the light switch went off. Everything I felt before, all the stuff that I just felt I couldn't do, I wasn't good enough to do, just went right out the window.
Absolutely. It feels so good to hear that somebody believes in you the way you believe in yourself, or maybe you didn't believe in yourself.
I didn't believe in myself, no.
But before we dive into your professional career, I want to go back to talking about what Catholic school was like for you and the goods and bads that came with that.
So my parents didn't have much money. I think they got maybe financial aid or whatever it was for us to go. I grew up Catholic. I'm not a Catholic anymore. I call myself a recovering Catholic. I think a lot of people grow up in the church world and the religion world because of tradition. And we lived like in a very bad area where projects were across the street and stuff. So you didn't want to go to public school. So somehow, some way they got us into Catholic school. Catholic school, I don't remember much. I mean, I just remember like it was weird where like, you know, you had these ladies in robes trying to teach you and, you know, you'd go to church a couple times a week and I don't know. I didn't care. I was disconnected. You know, as a child, I was just very disconnected because I didn't have a lot of friends. I was a fat kid, you know what I mean? So like, I just kind of went by the day. We ended up getting out of Catholic school, kicked out of it because my younger brother is a year younger than me. A nun, he was sleeping during class and a nun like picked him up and he threw her, like tossed her. And we ended up getting kicked out. So what happened was my dad ended up using my grandmother, which lived a few towns away's address, and we started going to school there. So we'd live there on a Monday through Friday at my grandmother's house and then go home to my mom on the weekends. And that was cool. Public school was cool, like walking to school, doing stuff like that. But, you know, it's still hard getting friends because I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. So school was tough for me until we moved to the suburbs when I was 14. And I stopped listening to my dad and I started seeing possibility and I started seeing a different light and a different way of living.
And what was that different way of living?
Well, when you move to the suburbs, you come out of kind of like the project in the city area. You start seeing people where they've got two nice cars in the driveway. They sit down and have, you know, family dinners. You know, father and mother are supportive and talking to each other. My parents were so disconnected. We ended up moving to the suburbs with my grandparents and my uncle moved in with us. So we go from a tight apartment to a 3-bedroom house with 7 people. So it was the same shit. And, you know, just starting to have friends on the block, but seeing different things, batting cages in backyards, big pools in backyards, basketball courts in backyards. Like, never saw that shit. I'd go to a basketball court in the hood. You ain't touching a basketball, you white boy. You know what I mean? You just sit there and watch. So I just saw a different way of living. And I just really realized that my parents, I wouldn't say my mom worked 2 jobs hard trying to support us for a long time. I would say my dad was very compromised with his ability and belief in himself. And that like really fell into the way that we lived.
Okay. So then you graduate high school and what's next for you?
Started my company when I was 17, right out of high school.
And what did you learn from starting that company out of high school?
I learned I had no business doing business. But ignorance on fire creates some great opportunities. I wasn't willing to, I had a job for 3 days. Besides that time I was working with that guy, Dave. My first job ever when I was like 15, I worked at Boston Market. And for me, like ADD, bro, all sorts of stuff going on. They put me in the kitchen in the back to prep food. So I'm like, all right, my 3rd day there, I'm like, all right, this is cool. I'm putting cornbread in the oven. And I've got marshmallows here that are supposed to go in the sweet potatoes. Let me put those marshmallows in the cornbread because I think that'll be cool and people will like that. Everything blows up in the oven, right? So I didn't make it but 3 days there. I go to get my first check. It's like $30 or something like that. I'm like, this is bullshit. So I started my first company just because Dave told me he believed in me. And just because I knew like even through school, I didn't listen to teachers. I was so disconnected. And at this time, I was working out. I had confidence in myself. I was looking good. I was all jacked up at 17, 18 years old. And I just went around knocking on doors. Hey, you want a front door? You need some windows changed? You want to build get a deck built? I'm, doing work in the area. I lived in the neighborhood. They probably remembered me from, but whatever. It was my dad's business, I said. And I'm just out here selling for him. But it was my business. And, I got a little job here, a little job there. And then all of a sudden started taking off.
What did you learn from all that? Like all the little jobs here and there and then out there hustling. What did that teach you at that age?
So what I learned is that every little thing then turns into something bigger. And I learned patience. When you have a traditional job and you're just maybe not making enough money, people get stressed out, aggravated. I'm worth more. We're all worth more. If we have a job, you're always worth more than what you're getting paid. That's the whole point of you working for somebody, you know, and until you realize what your value is and you believe in yourself enough to go do it yourself, you're always going to be getting underpaid for the value that you bring to the market. I can't say everybody, we know that there's a lot of people who show up to work and don't work, but people who are super skilled and just maybe scared to go out and do their own thing, of course they're going to get underpaid wage for their skill. So for me, I just knew like I had to sell cheap to get busy and learn. I had no idea what I was doing. I just figured it out. When I worked with Dave for 2 years, I just literally like wrote a notebook down and everything that we did that day, I remembered and put it in kind of this journal on how to do it. So if we were installing windows, I wrote it down and I went to go install windows in this new job. I had to open up the book and see how do you do this? What was the measurement again? How much bigger was the opening? And all this kind of stuff I remembered. And I just kind of like created my own cheat code. But what I learned was people were hiring me. And the reason why they were hiring me wasn't because I was selling them, it was because I was offering them a solution. And when you have solutions for people, that's what they want to hear. So throughout the last 30 some odd years in business, 20 years, the worst people in business are salespeople. The best people in business sell solutions. So at a young age, I was selling a solution. And I started watching it work and work and work and work. But then when you get cocky, you get an ego and all this kind of stuff, and then you try to like, I'm the best guy out there. Why do you want that guy? And then things start tripping backwards, and you got to go back to square one. What was working? What wasn't working? So I built confidence in myself just because I knew it was either me or nobody, and nobody was going to help me or save me. And by Dave telling me that when I was a kid, that was like my fuel for a lot of years.
So it took one person to believe in you and put that inspiration in you, whether teachers, parents, nobody was able to do that. It was just somebody you worked for.
Yeah.
And you were able to take that for years. Did it constantly grow, or did you hit a point where you fell backwards because you spoke earlier that you weren't able to hear your inner child for a long time?
So from 17 to 24, I did about 10 million in business. I made 4 million net. At 24 years old, I was living in a 5,000 square foot house. My neighbors' kids were older than me. I had one son by then. I had a couple Escalades in the driveway. That's when Escalades first came out. S55 AMG, I had it all because I was wealthy in my mind. In that time and era of like the early 2000s, what were we watching? MTV Cribs?
Yeah.
Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? That's what wealth was. That's what everyone literally placed wealth on. So I'm like, I got the house, I got the car, I got it all. Then the economy crashes in 2007. I don't think the economy put people out of business. It put me out of business, but it wasn't the economy, it was my discipline and my respect of money. I didn't respect money. I was making it and making it and making it from the young start all the way up. It just kept getting better. And I wasn't prepared for the downfall. So what I learned at that time was when preparation meets opportunity, that's where success lives. But I wasn't prepared for the opportunity of change. So many people become wealthy in the downturn. I had no idea how to prepare myself because I wasn't financially educated.
So what would you now teach the little Dan then?
So everyone always says, if you can go back, what's one thing that you would have done? I went bankrupt at 24. Would you not go bankrupt? I was like, nah, it was fine. I used the legal system the way it allowed me to. But the one thing I would have done differently was I would have asked for help. So if we turn this back to when I was 16 years old and Dave said he believed in me, and then 17 years old telling Dave I'm going to start my own business, Dave said something after that. Excited and happy, but nervous at the same time when I told him that. He said, you're not ready. But you just told me you believed in me. I do, but you're not ready. The not ready part didn't register because I had the fuel I needed. My tank was full, so I wasn't listening.
We know it all at that age anyway, so.
Yeah. I got a 21-year-old kid and a 20-year-old. They know it all. You have no idea, Dad. Okay, I have no idea. You know?
For sure. So what would you have changed? Or what would you have taught yourself?
I would have asked for help.
What does asking for help look like for you?
I would have maybe asked Dave to mentor me through it, or maybe told Dave, hey, if I get some work, could we do it together and I could work my way up, or teach me about financial responsibility. I just had cash coming in. Back then people were paying cash. Money was there. I had no idea. I was just spending it because when you're making it's like a drug dealer. When you're making this kind of money, dude, you're just blowing it because you're like, oh, it just keeps coming and coming and coming. What am I going to do with it? There comes a point in life where you got stacked cash in a safe. You're like, all right, well, it doesn't go any higher. Just start spending it. That's kind of where I was. So I would have asked for the understanding of how to run a business versus just have a business.
Makes sense. Because sometimes asking for help seems overwhelming because you're asking for help, but you're not asking the right way or for the right things.
Well, it's ego and pride.
Absolutely.
You're making money hand over fist. What are you going to tell me? How much money are you making?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the attitude I had. If you're not making what I want to make, you have nothing to tell me.
You have nothing to learn from them.
Nope.
And then you said you went bankrupt. How did that affect your mental health?
So if I didn't have a child by then, I probably would have went off the deep end. But here's what happened. I walk into my lawyer's office and I said, I can't believe I've built all this up and I've got to let it go. I literally have to sign these papers today, let it all go. He said something to me that literally changed the game. Someone always tells me something that either is going to be positive for my life or negative for my life. And I either listen in a good way or listen in a bad way. He goes, listen, son. Guy's 50 some odd years old. I'm 20 something. He's like, listen, son. You did it once at a young age. You've done more than I've seen most grown men ever be able to do. You know how to do it. What you're losing is nothing. You still have it all. You have yourself and you have your family and you have your ability. Nobody took away your ability. Go out there and do it again.
Okay.
So that was the first thing I heard. Then I go home, open the front door. My son comes running up to me at a young age with his arms open just because he was so excited I was there. So all the pain I felt driving home was erased the minute I opened the front door because prior to that day, I never built with purpose. My purpose was right there and my legacy was right there. I thought I just lost my legacy, but what I lost was the discipline I never had.
I want to dig deeper into this only because I know finances is a huge struggle in the world, especially in the veteran community and that. But I don't want to push people to oh yeah, just go run out. Bankruptcy is going to save you, right? No. But I want to be able to teach people that it is okay to be on the top, fall all the way down or fall down to whatever level, and you could still get back up and keep moving forward. And I just want to continue to dive into that mindset that you had to put yourself in to get yourself out of the bankruptcy and back into it.
So I didn't know what I was going to do. My son's mother at the time, I wasn't married yet. My kid's mother at the time had a great job. She was making $100,000 a year. So we had a nanny raising our kids. We had to fire the nanny and I became the nanny. So I was like a stay-at-home dad at a young age. But that only lasts so long because she wasn't happy with me. Why do I have to go out and do all this stuff and you're not doing it? So short after that, I kept getting a couple of my friends that were in construction calling me up and offering me opportunity. So I go really deep in a lot of this because the story of childhood really broke me down. And then this story, with Dave and then owning my business really messed me up and it kept going. And my book that's coming out is called Falling Your Way Uphill. And I've got 9 times that God checked me in my life up until a couple of years ago. And so many situations happen. And the whole purpose of my book is to stay on this and say, listen, we all are going to go through things in life. But if we don't grow through them, we don't learn from them, and we don't keep pushing, who suffers? Too many people in this world, dude, I grew up with nothing. Too many people in this world want people to feel bad for them. I learned at an early age of life, I was a fat kid. Nobody felt bad for me. It was a joke. If I need to take change in my life, it's got to come from me. So I took that personal responsibility. I went to the gym. I started bodybuilding. I started doing things. My family was financially strapped. If I was going to change the dynamic of my life, it had to be on me. So I learned a lot of things at a young age that most people don't learn because I used my childhood as leverage to become better. When I was like 14 years old, so we grew up in New Jersey, we're driving past Bon Jovi's house because he was from New Jersey. And I remember like asking my dad, like, what is that? Like these houses, I thought they were like stores. You know, you don't see stuff like that, like McMansions, like what's going on there? And he labeled, he goes, those are rich people, we'll never be rich. So that was my first endeavor, was to become rich. Told me I can't, I need to.
So your spite for your dad was also your fuel in life. And you mentioned about having to heal your inner child. What did it take to start working on that?
I didn't do that till like 20 years later because I made a lot of money, wasn't happy. Lost money, wasn't happy. Had kids, wasn't happy. Ended up getting married, wasn't happy. Doing all this stuff, just wasn't happy. Every time I thought that something would bring me happiness, I would self-sabotage myself. So I remember like the first time me and my ex-wife like went to counseling and did all this kind of stuff. I read this book by Gary Chapman. It's called The 5 Love Languages. That was terrible for me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I think that book is great, but I think the principles in them aren't taught correctly because what happened was I learned that my love language were words of affirmation. So here's what I didn't read in that book. These are your love languages, but you can't live on them only. You've got to understand them and you've got to develop yourself to know that it's not always going to happen. For me, I read it like, oh, if you're not validating me and I'm not important, I need to move on. So the minute I felt not important from a woman, I'd go to another woman. Then I'd go to another woman because they all make you feel good in the beginning. And all of a sudden they got a problem and you want to kick them out and go find another one.
Right.
You know, so I just kept doing that. And then I would make money in business and I wouldn't be full. So years down the road, I'm like, all right, I built all these businesses. I did all this stuff. Why do I just still feel empty? And I had to do a lot of deep thinking and realize that like I'm trying to fill something, a void from something I never got as a kid. So what I had to do is call my dad and forgive him. And when I did that, dude, I felt like 20,000 pounds came off my shoulder. And what I really had to do at this time was start building for a reason. I said when I was 24, my son was now my purpose. And my kids are my purpose. But there's no legacy behind the purpose because I did like every other dad does. Goes out there to provide. I do it for my kids. I do it for my kids. What do my kids get? What was left? When I was tired, when I was frustrated, when I was aggravated. I'll talk to you in a minute. I'm busy over here. And I realized I was doing life the wrong way. My final check mark was 4 years ago. This August 3rd, be 4 years from the day I had a heart attack.
Okay. Before we dive into that, I want to talk about how were you able to forgive your father? Because you could say those words, but how did you end up meaning them?
Yeah, so it happened after a heart attack. So people don't realize one of the biggest strengths in life is forgiveness. And then when they do realize it, they don't realize the second half of that is that if you're going to forgive someone, if I'm going to forgive you, I've got to forgive you. I don't got to come and say, hey, I need you to forgive me and I need you to understand why I'm forgiving you. I don't care what happens on your side. I need to truly forgive you for whatever you've done and really mean it and process it regardless of how you react. So I remember like going into forgiving my dad. I knew what was going to happen. Said he's going to deny it. He's going to ignore it. It's all good. But Dan, you're not going into it for his reaction. You're going into it for your release. And as I was talking to him, he just kept interrupting me. I said, just listen to me. Just listen to me. I just had to get it out. And once I got it out, it's like I threw up all over the place and I just felt good because I was finally able to be heard, though I wasn't heard. And I got it all out. And I knew that even if I hung up this phone and he doesn't accept it and doesn't say, I'm sorry, my job is to forgive him. My job is not to get an I'm sorry or any kind of amount of anything on the other side of that.
Did you go to therapy? Did you do any plant medicine or something? How were you able to get into that mindset to be able to forgive and accept what he responded to you with?
Years of journaling, years of time with God, and just opening up my Bible literally to whatever it opened up to. And that one day it was just like, you need to choose forgiveness.
And let's talk about religion. I know you went to a Catholic school, and then now you're a recovering Catholic. So when you were going to school, did you believe in God and the Catholic word and all that? Or were you just there because you had to go to school there?
So I don't think anyone that goes to Catholic school or is in Catholic church really believes in God. I think that you're taught certain things and you're taught principles and you're taught, hey, this is right and this is wrong. And if you sin, you go to hell. And I don't think there's many priests who can actually translate the Bible to real life. People go, how do you say that? I go, well, they go to Bible school. It's just like going to college. And when you go to college, you've got a professor. A professor's textbook. Bible school is textbook. Most professors don't profess. They don't practice what they're preaching. Most priests don't practice what they're preaching. They're textbook. So I didn't learn this on until later on in life when I started seeing pastors, which were different, allowed to be married, allowed to have businesses, having families, having, hardship, taking everyday life situations and family and translating it in the Bible was a revelation for me, because it was like everything I've ever learned was zero, because it was never taught to me to be understood.
Right.
So growing up, I just did the thing because I was supposed to do the thing. If you asked me a scripture when I was young, I couldn't answer you. If you ask most Catholics today who go to church on Easter and go to church on Christmas Eve about anything, they can't tell you. They just do it because they're supposed to do it.
So when did you stop reading the Bible after you got out of Catholic school?
I never read the Bible in Catholic school.
Okay.
If we had to, I don't remember doing it.
So when did religion become a part of your life?
So there's no religion in my life. Religion's a man-made thing. I became connected with God and Jesus in 2007. So the Bible talks about having a relationship. Mm-hmm. Religion's a man-made thing. It's I call it organized crime. It's government ran. It's all that. You don't have to be at a place. You don't have to do a thing. You don't have to put money in an envelope to have a relationship with God. So 2007, I was disconnected, I would say, from probably 1998 to 2007. That was probably the last time I went to church with my mom, 98, 97. We would go to church on Sunday and just go to church on Sunday. And it was the 1 hour, you just got to do what you got to do. Could we go as early as possible so I could be home to do what I got to do? That was kind of the thing. So 2007, my second son, he's 18 months old. At this time, I'm not in construction anymore. I got involved in network marketing just to make ends meet. I said a couple of my friends that were in construction, were suffering. And guy calls me up. He's like, hey, how about you get paid every time the phone rings? I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? I thought he was on drugs. End up getting in this opportunity. Fast forward a year or so later, making tons of money. Again, ignorance on fire. I had no idea what I was doing, but I saw the money in the vehicle to save my family. Particularly one Saturday morning, I was going to a training event, which I was holding for my group. And I pull my car out of the garage and I look up and my 18-month-old son and 3-year-old son are saying bye to me. My 18-month son falls out of a window 20 feet right in front of me. Falls to the floor. Last 4 or 6 feet, something like that, literally came down and he stopped and went slow. I can't even make that up. He was laying on the ground, dude. He was as white as a ghost. Thought he was dead. I grabbed him immediately. You're not supposed to do that, but I did it because out of panic. And end up, going to the hospital, doing the whole nine. Whoever likes this story, read my book. It's very deep in there. But let me tell you how I became a Christian. So 2 guys I had met probably a week before. I was supposed to meet them that Saturday morning. They find out I'm not coming because there was an incident with my family and I'm now in the hospital. These 2 guys show up to the hospital. They don't even know them. They stayed there for 3 days. Brought us food. At the end, I'm like, how can I ever repay you? They go, you don't have to repay us. Just thank God your son's still here and show him that you're thankful by just showing up to his house. I'm like, what do you mean? They come to church. I'm like, dude, I did church. Dude, I can't do that. They're like, just come. So I went. First church I've been to in many years. And as I walk in, people are singing, falling on the floor, speaking in tongues. I'm like, this is wild, dude. I can't be here. Sat through the first hour and a half of service. I'm like, hey, guys, appreciate your time. Thank you for inviting me. Not for me. I told my mom. My mom's like, yeah, you need God. Come back to the Catholic Church. All right, Mom, I'll do it just for you. So I go upstairs in the second floor. I sit in the back because I know I'm going to fall asleep because Catholic Church is boring as hell. Within 15 minutes, dude, I'm knocked out. My mom's hitting me to wake up. So I knew that wasn't for me either. But I'm like, there's got to be something deeper. So for like a couple weeks, we just start searching churches, and we ended up finding a church, very connected, very good, family unit, smaller church. And I really liked the pastor a lot because he was telling all his stories of his life, and he was putting scripture in it, and it was all starting to make sense. So probably about after 2 or 3 weeks going there, we decided to go there. And that was 2007.
I just got to ask, is your son completely okay?
He's good.
That's
he
awesome.
broke his leg, that was it.
Okay. That's wild. That's a wild story.
You know why? Like, if he would have panicked and he was older, he probably would have broke more. But he didn't know what was happening. It happened so fast. He was a young kid. He didn't know how to react.
Yeah, they say in like car accidents, you're supposed to go limp and just let it happen to you. But we all want to brace because we want to protect ourselves. And that's what causes the damage. But I'm grateful to hear that your son's okay. And what a wild story to get you into being spiritual.
Yeah.
And so how do you practice your spirituality?
So every single day, man, I'm in the Word every day. I read scripture every day. I journal every day. And I can't say every day. There are days that I don't. But I do pray every day. I do have conversations with God every day. But my main morning routine is waking up in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, sitting down in a recliner and just, opening up some devotionals and opening up the Bible to wherever it takes me, reading for about a half an hour, then just journaling my thoughts, how I feel, how that made me feel, how that resonated with where life is. There's a funny thing about scripture. It's weird that whatever you need to hear almost just pops always right in front of you.
I hear that a lot.
Dude, you just open the Bible. Because people go, how do I read a Bible? They go, oh, we'll start here. I go, no, just open it. Every day, just randomly open it. And I guarantee if you read 2 pages, something in that 2 pages is going to be what you need to hear.
Absolutely. How are you able to give yourself grace? Because you went from saying, I do this every day, and then you're like, well, not every day, but you try to do it every day. How do you not allow yourself to get hard on yourself when you feel like you didn't keep your word?
Because Jesus was the only perfect man, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. And I think it's okay to let people know that we all fall short. And, that his grace and his mercy upon us is okay because it's there because we are going to fall short. But he knows that I'm not rejecting him. He knows that I'm not denying him. But just sometimes, you maybe wake up a little bit late or you're traveling or you're doing this. Like this morning, I didn't do it because I had a bunch of stuff going on. But I always come back. We disconnect. It's like working out. I work out every day. No, you don't. There's not one person out there who works out 365 days a year, twice a day. There's some disconnect in there. But you have to be okay with letting people know that you're imperfect. And I think that we live in a world where everyone wants to be seen as perfect and so disciplined that we don't allow ourselves to break. But like you said, you got to give yourself grace and realize that, hey, it's okay not to be 100% all the time.
For sure. My old version of myself was very hard on myself and my toughest critic, where everyone else can be flawed or do things wrong, and that's okay. Like, let me lift you up. But when I do something wrong, I just instantly want to go into like bashing myself or bringing myself down. And I recognize that I'm the one that's holding myself back.
Yeah.
So what led to your heart attack?
Years of steroid abuse and not taking my medication for a number of days. It was a super hot day, and my blood pressure just literally had its best. I was sitting on a line of hypertension, and that was it, dude. I thought I was dead. My whole body went numb. Not taking care of yourself. You know, like, yeah, I'll take the medicine tomorrow. You know, people think, oh, yeah, I take my blood pressure medicine every day. No, I don't. I forget. You know, there's many days I forget. But you know what? Sometimes I'll be sitting on the couch being, I need to go take that. Where prior to a heart attack, I'll be like, I'll just take it tomorrow. You know, so like you just kind of know, like there comes a point in your life where every single thing you do in your life, you're either going to take responsibility or you're not. And at that time, I wasn't taking responsibility for my health. I didn't look bad. I was doing well financially. I was stressed like everyone else, but I just wasn't taking care of the main thing. And I didn't realize at that point in my life that the most important thing I had and needed to value in my life was my health.
And walk me through after the heart attack.
So I'm in my office. I go numb, wrist to wrist. My entire body feels like it's on fire. I am in the ambulance at this time, and I blacked out. I was texting my kids, like, sorry for not being the best that I can. My one son wasn't talking to me at this time for about a year and a half after my divorce. And I literally was just texting them, telling them I'm sorry I fell short and, you know, I love them and everything. And I just blacked out for a minute. And I wake up in the hospital. But between that time, I feel like I had a conversation with God. And I said, I'm not ready to go. I don't know. Like, all I want to do is just talk to my son. He doesn't talk to me. And you're taking me away. Like, this is not good. And God told me in that moment in my life, he's like, I don't know how many times I got to warn you. And I tell people this. I feel like God's got a little game out there. Like, how bad do you really want it? And he does check us. And it's either we connect or we stay disconnected. So I feel like he said, listen, I don't know how many times I got to tell you, but I've given you a gift. And if you don't share the gift, your gift holds no value. And I realized that was a gift of discipline and building structure. And I had made a ton of money, built businesses over the years. And my gift was being very structured in business and being disciplined in business. So my assignment was to go teach people how to build and operate proper business and really live the life that they should be, not being strapped to their business. And I wake up in a hospital with people standing over me, lights in front of me. That's all I remember.
And how did you move forward after that heart attack?
Well, I didn't listen. I had a striving business, and I had a sales guy who I did listen to my doctor. My doctor's like, look, you need to take about 6 months off. Like, don't stress. Like, what can you like let other people do that you shouldn't be doing? So my one project manager, I'm like, hey, listen, like, you're doing a great job. For the next 6 months, can you do the sales as well? I'll pay you commission. I just need to take some time away. So I gave him full responsibility of my business. And I just kind of backed off and just didn't do nothing. Went to the gym, like, tried to get better. And he started stealing from me. For the next year and a half, this guy built a financial sheet that I owed him like $70-something thousand in commissions. My bookkeeper's calling me, asking me why everything is falling apart. Where's everything going? You're putting out so much and not bringing in so much. And come to find out, he was just selling jobs to sell jobs at low ticket just to get commission. And he found out that I found out. And then he went to the attorney general and told the attorney general I was selling jobs just to sell jobs for deposits, though he was doing it so he could protect himself. So I found myself in a $3 million lawsuit 2 years later.
Damn.
And God said, you going to listen now?
For sure. I want to talk about one more hard thing before we get to how you're showing up today. But you mentioned you went through a period of time where you didn't get to talk to your kid. Your kid wasn't talking to you.
Yeah.
What kept you sane and keep going during that time?
I almost killed myself because my divorce was so bad. And this was prior to him not talking to me. And then I realized I went under a bridge, sat there for a couple hours. Another guy comes under the bridge, and he was thinking about doing the same thing. And we talked to each other, and we both walked out. Then when my son stopped talking to me, I got angry for a little bit. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me, God? And I think he wanted to see how I was going to respond. There's many people out there whose kids don't talk to them. I'm not the only one. And we shouldn't fall victim to it because it's not our doing. It's usually connected to the other parent. I had 2 other kids that I had to make a choice on. You're going to sit here and mope and be mad and upset about one kid, but you got 2 other kids who want to fully love you and surrender to you right now. You make the choice. So I had a moment where I said, you know what? I've got 2 kids who love me. If my other one doesn't want to show up, I can't do anything about that. It's out of my control. But what I can do is show love to the 2 that are here and still love on the one that's not. I texted him every day, what I thought about him, what he meant to me. 4 years in high school, I showed up to every single football game, didn't miss one. Imagine sitting at your kid's football game for 4 years, however many games that is, 50 some odd games. He doesn't look at you once. But you still show up. And people in the crowd start asking you, who are you here for? My son, Devin. Oh, Devin's an amazing kid. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't get to talk to him.
Took some strength. And thank you for sharing about your devastation, your thought of suicide and all that. Do you still talk to that gentleman you met underneath the bridge that night?
No, never got his number, never did nothing.
Okay. And so what helps you show up today to be the best version of yourself, even though you went through all that hard times, where somebody looks at you like, Dan, he's got it all figured out. He's a badass. He doesn't struggle. What do you have to say?
I do struggle. We all struggle.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like when you're in the gym, you want to put 300 pounds on a bar, you're not going to lift it. You've got to work your way up. It's resistance, you know, and being able to do this kind of stuff. It's grit, going after it. It's just about how we react to things. I've really learned over the years to work on my recovery time. So if there's something that maybe upset me for a week, how do I turn that into one day? If there's something that upsets me for a day, how do I turn that into 1 hour? And you just got to keep chopping it down. Because at the end of the day, every moment that we spend trying to correct something that we can't correct or worry about something that we have no control over is a moment that we lose to strengthen who we are. So I've just worked on this over time. There are days that I just, shut down and just say, you know what? I'm not going to do anything for the rest of the day. Take time to myself. I'm going to mow the lawn. I'm going to do whatever, just to get my head right. And I think it's super important to spend time with yourself and know who you are, because too many people are busy serving everybody else and they never put themselves first. So being selfish is my number one priority.
I want to hit this one more time. I know you mentioned it multiple times, but what are part of your dailies that you have to do every day to show up the best version of yourself?
First off, wake up in the morning with the intention to show up as best as you can today and not worry about what you didn't do yesterday. Number 2, I don't look at my phone for the first 2 hours of my day. When I wake up in the morning, I bring myself into the world. I don't let the world control me. Have my cup of coffee, have my 8 ounces of water, sit down, get set. Then I jump on the treadmill for 45 minutes, do fasted cardio, jump in the sauna. That's my time. I'm reading my devotionals in the sauna, so I'm kind of collapsing time. And then I just work out and I get myself ready. The problem is everyone is so reactive. And when you live in a reactive way, you can never react to how you need to react to change you because you're worried about everything else. So I make myself selfish. I put myself first. I wake up before everybody else. I do what I've got to do because I'm prepared for what the world's ready to give me the minute I turn my phone on, which is a couple hours after I've already entered into this day.
Awesome. I love it. And you mentioned your book. Let's mention it one more time and how people can find you and the book.
Yeah. So my book's called Falling Your Way Uphill. You can go to fallingyourwayuphill.com. The book's coming out in November. You can get on a pre-list to get notified when it does come out. And, I'm super excited. This book has been in the works since 2016.
That's awesome.
So
I want to shout out Dr. Ken Smiley for making this conversation happen and connecting us together. Also, any saved rounds, anything I missed that you want to share or a positive message to the community?
Yeah, well, what I would just say is we didn't really miss anything. There's so much. I mean, we could talk for hours. But what I would just say is whatever's going on in your life, it's going on in so many other people's lives. Imposter syndrome is a real thing. A lot of people think, why is this happening to me? So whatever's going on, instead of asking why, asking what is this doing to me? And see how effective things in your life that are either good or bad are looking to change you to the next version of who you're supposed to be. That's it.
I love it. Well, thank you for being here and thanks for the time, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
My pleasure.